called Chinese Rock. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh well, never mind. Very dramatic afternoon.
Oh yeah?
I'm fine.
Oh, I love that outfit, man.
Thank you.
It's great.
You want to see what I got? I brought.
No, this is it. This is it.
All right.
I don't want anything else. Can you just wear this?
This is very Dee.
Oh, this is great, man.
And
great.
I also brought like that green. You know, I'll show you real quick. Like just like if you like these pants better, they're more ripped.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
This looks cool though.
All right.
And that. No, I'll wear this. You're right.
Try the other pants on just for the hell of it.
Okay, I will.
All right, just for the hell of it.
And then, you know, I brought this T-shirt. It's like a. But I want. This is my favorite one.
I love this, man.
You know, this is like.
This is fucking great. Teenage Strangler.
I always liked this one, and this one was a good find. I got
man.
this.
Without the jacket, it's incredible.
Johnson one I got.
It's fucking great, man.
I did everything. I tried to dye my hair better.
Tano? It looks good.
And, you know, everything I could.
Steve, Steve's gonna run out. He's gonna get coffee. You want anything else?
Yeah, if they could get, hi.
Tano?
Hello.
How are you?
Okay. I have money for, if you could go to the health food store and get me like amino acid oxyquinches, like those.
Oh, very good. No,
lozenges.
I seen that ship.
Hello.
He must have called it.
I,
seen that.
this is the only thing I got left from Bridget. I stole it from her.
Amino acid.
It's more bad.
Hello, Mr.
What's
Brady.
that? Amino acid.
How you doing?
Yeah.
They have to be oxyquenchers. It's like an antibiotic thing. It's like, I'll write it down. Because then they'll try and sell you the amino acids, and they're the wrong ones. They have to be the oxyquenchers.
So what happened to the phone?
Because I'm a healthy Dee Dee. For me.
I'm living on the Chinese rock. I'm living on the Chinese rock. I'm living on the Chinese rock. I'm living on the Chinese rock.
You ready? All quiet? Everybody in that's gonna be in? Okay.
Okay.
So our first move is a forward move. Okay, am I moving on action or are we holding?
You're holding.
I'm gonna
Waiting
mark
for your.
Okay.
It'll be a tail slate again, okay?
More like orange and under, whereas Fuji does like a bluish, greenish sort of thing.
Equivalent of double X. It's equivalent of double X. They're black and white for rock videos. They got
Ready, Dee Dee, ready? On me?
Okay.
Roll camera, I'll say action. Roll camera.
Sorry, put my hands on the thing and
Wait for me, you know.
tell me when.
Roll camera
Rolling.
and action.
Hello. Well, when the New York Dolls started, like maybe 6 months before they were playing, like I think the musicians like that hung out in New York were like very into fashion, you know. Like it was a competitive thing, and the Dolls had the look down the best. I remember one night I saw them at Max's, and they were more like together maybe a year. And they had a little more money or something, I don't know, but I never will forget that night. They had like all the platform boots that you had to have made, and then they had like stuff that other people wouldn't really think of putting in with that, like they'd wear their girlfriend's clothes, you know. They get clothes anywhere. They would wear like shoes like this, like, you know, tennis shoes, but they'd have big platforms on, and I don't even think they were denim, you know, and rubber. God knows what they were. It was fun for everybody. It was like something to do, and it made like all the music sound better and more interesting. And Richard Hell like started a lot of this look. Like he cut his hair like Johnny Rotten type haircut, the spiky one. And he was playing in a group called Television, which Television had broke up at about the same time. I think the Dolls just broke up. The Ramones were starting. And Richard and Johnny Thunder started a band with Jerry Nolan, who also left the Dolls. And he was like more my friend, Jerry. But, you know, they definitely like were one of the coolest groups, and I think that's the Heartbreakers. The Dolls too, but the Heartbreakers were really great. Now, I started hanging out with the Heartbreakers, and they started hanging out with me to cop and shoot dope together.
Take two, action.
I hope you're finally ready, because I was getting angry. Because I'd like to give a serious message to the young kids.
Look at the camera, Dee Dee.
The young kids. This is my message to the youth. Children, behave. Be good to your... Listen to Dee Dee and be good.
Oh, God.
We love you. We do. Hope you'll be good. Be good.
You do tie
little
shoelaces together?
Kids. All right, now stop. Oh, God, that's not nice to do to me. You know, I guess, like, for me, like, you know, I've been there, you know, and I made it through it. Like, these are like what I got out of it, you know. I got my tracks, they're gone, you know. I don't have to shoot dope no more. And I got my history on my arms. So how should I position it? Like more this way?
I don't want to do this like with him right there. I don't want it to fall on him.
Well, how about if I just hang out here?
All right.
Whatever you do, just
Hello. Douglas Colvin and Dee Dee. And I have other names. Pippi, Papachulo. I had a casual friendship with Johnny Thunders, but I couldn't say I knew him, you know. I maybe towards the end of the group, yeah. And I can't remember if that was just because I was in the Ramones and we were checking each other. I don't know. But to make a long story short, Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan and Richard Hell and me, I think we got like really close through the dope.
Hey, let's cut right there.
All right. You want to start over?
Yeah, I want to start over, yeah.
Good, that worked out
was
good.
very good,
Yeah,
very good.
No, it's like good, it broke my ice. The history of my tattoos, like this was the first one. I had an argument with my mother because Kessie died. That was her dog sound, and she wanted me to go bury it with her. I got really mad. She wanted to bury it in Flushing Meadow Park, and I had to go cop, and I couldn't be bothered. And anyway, we got in a big argument, and I was in London. I left like a couple of days later and went to London. I didn't see my mother anyway. I think I wanted to show off that I was going to London anyway. That's why I called her. I didn't even know about Kessie. And I was so mad at her. I went to the tattoo guy. See, this is to get this one. I wanted to get a tombstone with mother on it. And he wouldn't do it. And I don't know why, because he had every awful one you could get anyway, right? So this was it. I was in total terror. I had to wait in a long line in this little trailer, and it's either in Camden or Portobello Market, something, you know, who knows. And when I came home, Connie got really pissed off because I didn't have her name on it. And I can't win, you know.
You know where we're going to start, dude?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, take a deep breath. And quiet, everybody, and roll camera.
Rolling.
Action.
So, you know, our thing was like party 24 hours a day, and especially on stage. And I think Thunder's got famous for being in a daze up there. And so I guess it's like, you know, we were all misery addicts, or we all wanted to create a lot of chaos so we'd have a better excuse. There was always an excuse to do dope. And a depressing show was the best excuse, you know. The show was always depressing because we brought it upon ourselves, because, you know, we didn't spend the money on clothes anymore, we spent it on smack, you know.
How was that for you?
Very good.
Was that all right, Mark?
Yes, very good.
I had to fight Vera for every one of these. Finally, the psychiatrist, Dr. Yeager, I looked at him right in the eye in one of our sessions, and Vera was there, and he said, "I know what you're thinking, I'm going to take her side." And I said, yeah, you know. So Vera got in a Mercedes and drove me down to Amityville. I got this one, which is the one I always wanted. I don't know what she had against them. Poor thing. I love to play the guitar. It's my only friend, I guess. He never complains. This is a Gordon Smith, and it's like a bass, so it's like got the same idea. It's easy this one's easy to keep going. I tried every kind you can get, and now I have like a harmony meteor or something, and I have a Fender bass, and this one. I'm gonna have another harmony. It's two, another little one, and that's what I got. Those are my guitars. Who I was like really getting involved in, like as a friend, a total dope friendship, but it's also because I really like admired him because he was tough, was Jerry Nolan. And I had an apartment, well, it wasn't mine, it was Deborah Harry and Chris Stein's apartment that they got on welfare. And they did it as a scheme to get a free apartment. And I was living up there with Tommy Ramone, and we had a phone then, and Jerry would call like every morning, like on clockwork. Dee Dee, you want, let's go cop. And, we went through some crazy scenes, like, running down the Bowery and freezing, just running and running with dope in our hands. And the police stopping us because they thought we had just did a B&E, and we said, no, we didn't, And then I think I would even say, no, we're just going to, get high. And, so I don't know, I didn't know why. I was always in a daze. I was so casual about everything. Even though I wasn't like openly discussing it, it was very obvious what I was doing because I was always sleepy.
Everyone have kids? No, I would not do that to a child. I want a turban, and I want to paint like put a diaper on my turban. I don't know. No, really, I can't have a kid. I don't have to have a wife anymore, and I don't have one. If I could have one, I would adopt one. A little kid that needed a girl boy. I'd rather have a boy than a girl. I like little girls, but I get too attached to them.
So, now, these other ones I got are Born to Raise Hell. And this is like survive with your pistol. Let me see how this one's working. All our drug habits had gotten very serious. They were fueled by, being in the bands and like having living in an illusion and just wanting to have something to do. Really, that was what we did, and it just went along with the territory. It wasn't anything we thought was anything wrong with it. We thought we should be doing it, and it was that's just what we did. It was normal. And that it was not normal not to do it.
Now I want to have something to do. Now I want to see some glue. It's really frustrating. It's really just a frustrating thing,
What is?
Because there was nothing else to do than just to sniff glue. We got something better to do now. Now, what do you want me to say? I want all the kids to go drink ammonia or something? I don't want them to do that.
One day, I got so rebellious, I escaped from the band. We had like 6 hours off, and I went down to Mark Saint in Portobello, and I got like 6. And then I got 2 more on the sneak, and I came home with like 8 of them. And Vera just flipped, man. I think she left for a while. I couldn't even find her. Usually, she was very secretive, She had, she wouldn't dare tell me where she was going. Like when she saw those tattoos, she didn't even say a word. She said, later, Dee Dee. Oh, Vera.
Well, I had a turtle, but the maid opened the door to clean the room and it walked out. Oh my God. In Chelsea. It was like about 2 months ago. It's my pet. I just had it for a while. And what was her name? Sparky. It was trained too. And I put a blue light And when I put it on, the blue lamp in the room and turned it dark, I could race around the room, you know?
You know, like Johnny Thunders was like really demanding. I remember Richard and I had went to Cop, and we didn't know John was coming over. I think he was just waiting there or something, right? Had nothing to do with any of our plans that day. And Richard and I had a hard, I guess what would have been considered a hard time, but I don't know, it didn't faze us. We were coming out of a hallway, and this like lunatic burst in there, threw a karate kick, and held a knife up. And I said, man, that's no way to do it. I mean, you know, kick a guy with sneakers, come on, you know, the skinny little guy. We just pushed him out of the way and walked out the door, but somehow I got caught, you know. I just held myself, and we walked in and got high. And that was it. Later on, the Heartbreakers played, and I think Richard said this song is like dedicated to Dee Dee Chinese Rocks because he got cut today. And that was it, you know. It was no big deal. It was just part of life then. But we go upstairs, and we were obviously a bit drained, you know. We didn't want to go back down there. And John was there, and he was like complaining. He said, oh, get us some dope, get us some more dope. And I said, no, 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 no. And he wouldn't like take the hint. I said, go get it yourself, you know. And he said, no, you know, he was like demanding it, like he had like seniority in the clique there or something. You know, he was the top guy. And I wasn't going for that then because I was like Dee Dee Ramone now. You know, I said, this is like really rude of this guy, you know. Treat me like this, order me to go get the dope. I'll get it if I want to, and if I don't, I won't. So finally I was like drained, and I said, John, why the hell would I go get some dope for you right now? You know? And he said, well, so you have the privilege of hanging out with a rock star, you know? So yeah, I think that's why I left him turning blue in a bathtub once, you know, just, you know, I put him in there. I think I might have forgot, I don't know. There's all these bathtub stories, you know. I think that's something like one of his songs. This is like Too Tough to Die. I put that on there when I really wanted to live. That is his song. I can't put you on my memory. Well, you know, I hope everybody remembers him. But John, I would just avoid him from then on. But he did come over to an apartment I had on 10th Street where I was living with my girlfriend. And you know, like, she turned blue too. So I just threw her in the bathtub, and I forgot about her, you know? And so we all got high, and I think all the girls really were hoping they could go out with Johnny Thunders. He was like the one they wanted, and probably her too. I got the message clear, because when all of a sudden she just like stood up out of the bathtub, her hair all like wet and, you know, frantic looking, and she said, what happened? Why did you put me in here? And I said, I don't know. I said, I forgot you were in here even. And she said, well, who was here? You know, and I said, oh, Jerry and John. She said, Johnny Thunders? And I said, yeah, you know. And then she said, well, how could you put me in the bathtub when he was here? I said, oh, man, I'm leaving. I'm going to cop some dope. And that was like my life. And even though I had been doing the dope for like I hate to say how young I started, I didn't realize I was addicted till around that period. And Joey and I were living in a loft on 62nd Street, right by CBGB's. I remember it was freezing and all. I made Joey move in there, and then I stole his TV. And he just sat there, you know, fucking Dee Dee, you know. And I didn't, you know, admit to it. I told him I had gotten it repaired. But I just didn't get enough money for that TV like I thought I would. And I only could get a bag of dope, it was 2 bags. I don't even care what I got. I just want to get something that day. And I started getting sick. And then I said, well, you know, I'm going to kick, you know. But of course, like, you know, 30 hours later, my girlfriend came by and said, Dee Dee, you need some dope. I said, I know, okay, you know. And that was like why I think none of us had a chance. That's Baby Doll, that was Vera. And this one I had done different. Like, I just had the letters like it would have been carved on a school desk. But then later Vera said, why don't you have it made pretty? So I did that for her. And I don't know.
No, they only give Yeah, the only solution we have is the 50.
Let me just check the gate while I'm here.
Yeah.
Like I said, like it was party, 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 and party on stage, party off stage. And, a typical like Heartbreakers show definitely didn't revolve around a sound check and a set list. It involved in like going to Cop in the afternoon and setting it up so when you got paid after the show, you had to deal it in. You could get high all night if you were lucky, I had it rough because I was like kind of being monitored and stood up to. So I definitely want to go to a Heartbreakers gig to party, I could really party then. And like a typical one would be at Max's, and all hell would have broken loose during the afternoon. You sell a guitar, sell a TV, steal your girlfriend's to anything, and get the dope and take an advance from the club owner. So you probably broke anyway after you got through playing to pay for all the dope. Like if you play like at Max's, go see the Heartbreakers there, one good thing is we all drank. So like the Tommy Dean was always good for a case of champagne, probably per person, And that you could entice people up there and get them drunk and then take their dope when they were passed out and take it out of their pocket. And that, that was like one of the techniques, beating people. I'd go get John a few bags of dope, and of course I'd take a little out, put it back together, put some oatmeal in there. Well, it was the Chinese rocks, it was the brown dope. And, that's how it got the name, Chinese rocks, because it was brown and it was supposed to come from Mexico, which it didn't. Really, it was a cover-up, a diversion technique. It was still coming from the Orient. And so, the word Chinese rocks kind of became famous. Even though there was like all the different names for the dope, it was all called, brand names for it. It was all like referred to as Chinese rocks. And it came in like a nice, like red tinfoil, very sophisticated wrapper. And on Christmas, it came in Christmas wrapping paper. And things like that, for the holiday, a little special treat. Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. Where's the bathroom here?
The bathroom is right there, Dee Dee. Men's room right there. There's a dressing room for you right there. Private dressing room.
Come in there and visit me later. This is my dragon. I'm very identified with dragons, like being playful and
Is there a lot of film in the camera?
The what?
Could I go on for a while?
Beyond the Chinese rock story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
But really think of
This
this.
is your Maggie shot?
Yeah.
I am. All right. Yeah, I
I
could, maybe. We'll have to see
Okay.
how it goes.
Again, make that a quick story. It's a Chinese rock story. It's really important.
No, I think there's a lot in this heroin hysteria.
Okay.
involved in that.
All right, you guys ready?
But to write Chinese rocks, I got the idea from Richard Hell. Richard, was, I guess, still, thinking about music a little. For me, when I wrote, I don't know how I wrote, what made me write, We were very competitive. I was very jealous of him because he had that haircut and I'd have the bowl haircut. And, I think the English groups were coming out with Richard's look and it was really looking cool and I was stuck, So we were competitive. Maybe it was like a silent type of secretive competition, but it was definitely there. And we were hostile to each other, but once in a while we'd talk. And one day Richard said to me, I want to write a song better than Lou Reed's Heroin. So I said, I'm gonna, I just went home and wrote Chinese Rocks. And I don't remember, oh yeah, I did play it for Johnny Ramone. He said, no way, we're not doing that song, it's about dope. I said, John, we sing about everything else. We sing about sniffing glue. And he said, well, we don't sniff glue anymore. I said, well, how do you know? I don't know what you're doing. You don't know what I'm doing. We don't hang out. And he said, well, look, we're not doing the song. It sounds like Commando or something. And I didn't know it did. So Jerry, by then I think Debbie had thrown me out of her apartment because I had pissed in the hallway because I was drunk and couldn't find my keys. And then my girlfriend was very dysfunctional and came up the stairs and was yelling at me, and there was a big commotion, and someone ran out of the apartment, and I think she hit him or something. You know, she probably had a horseshoe in her purse. I don't know what. You know, she always had some weapon on her. You know, I got this couple scars to prove it, and you know, so I had to move out of that apartment after that one night. And I was back on 10th Street with that other girl that had, that I think Johnny Thunders pushed her in the bathtub. I don't remember. It was her fault and his fault, not mine. And I was living there, you know, and Jerry came over there to cop, you know, with me. And it was real convenient because it was right on 10th Street where we used to go. And I started playing him the song, you know, and he liked it. And that was the last I heard of it until I think they started doing it. I think the way it changed was like, from what I can remember, is like Richard wrote, it should have been rich. I'm just digging a Chinese ditch. That's it, you know.
This one's called Chinese Rock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Somebody call me on the phone. Hey, is Dee Dee home? Do you wanna take a walk? Do you wanna go and cop? Do you wanna go suck some Chinese cock? I'm living on a Chinese rock. All my best things are in hot. I'm living on a Chinese rock. Everything is in the box of it.
And this one, Valerie Myers did on me. She's like an artist. She lives in the Chelsea Hotel. And she did it before I was going to rehearsal once. And she was taking a long time. Everybody got upset. But I was very flattered that she would do it. She's very like an ancient soul. And she did her tattoos on her eyes and all over her. And they're like probably some kind of weird thing. Knowing Val, you know, they must mean something. Well, about Chinese rocks now. So because of that song, a lot of aggravation and hatred started. I started like really getting aggravated with Thunders later about it, though. At first I was like flattered that they did the song, and I did give it to them, and I wanted them to do it. But when it came out on that record, it said Jerry Nolan and Richard Hell and Johnny Thunders and Dee Dee Ramone. I said, wait a minute. And it still didn't bother me because I didn't really know any better, but Johnny Ramone got on my case about it and said, how did you let this happen? I said, what are you talking about? I said, you told me you didn't want the song, that it was like disgusting to sing about smack. And I said, I know it is, and I agree with you. And I said, that's why we're not doing it. And I said, who cares who does it? But of course, you know, I was just faking it. You know, after he said that, I said, oh man, you know, this is like a jip, because it had nothing to do with money. It was like prestige. You know, it kind of like became prestige to do that song. The Ramones never felt it. You know, when they recorded it with Phil Spector, and it came. Well, actually, I don't even know what happened on that album, because I went to the studio one day and they said, well, John, you know, John's just stepped out for a minute. I got a call, or someone got a call like 10 minutes later, and John said, I'm going to the airport now. I'll see you guys. So like Mark and I sat there in a daze, and then like 2 hours later, we snuck away too, and we went back to New York, and somehow the song was on the record later. But when it came out in England, you know, I was happy about it, you know. I had no concept of royalties or anything, and I think I was the only lucky one who got mine anyway. The other guys had a hard way to go. And but later on, that Johnny Thunders autobiography came out, and he said in there, instead of saying anything about me writing it, he said everybody in New York said they wrote the song. And I said, oh man, I'd like to kill this guy, you know. I really hate him now, you know. And he was really annoying. And I was running from everybody. I ran from Sid at 78. I was trying to give up dope. It was just too hard because I had to work every night, and I couldn't get it, and I had to always be, I just couldn't deal with it anymore, you know. I didn't even really know it was wrong, I just was uncomfortable. But, you know, I was upset that John said that and didn't give me credit, but it was like typical of him, you know. That's the way he was, you know. I should have accepted it, but I started like doing what Richard Hell did, you know. I would just distance myself from everyone, you know, and John was uncomfortable with me, and, you know, we'd see each other on and off, maybe in England or somewhere. Like I saw him in 1976, crazy party, you know, in July there in London. And I don't even want to get into that. It was like insanity, you know. Oof.
Chinese rock style.
And then, what else could I say? I don't know. Dee Dee Ramone here. And it's like a dead man's hand. It's like 5 aces. You get that. I think, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you get that hand, and that's not a normal hand to get in a game. And, you know, then you know they know you're cheating. And you get killed for that. In like in the old days, I guess, in wherever they had those like gambling places. God only knows where they are now. On 14th Street.
My girlfriend's crying in the shower stall. Sad as a bitch. I should have been rich, but I'm just digging a Chinese ditch. I'm living on a Chinese rock. All my best things are in rock. I'm living on a Chinese rock. Everything is in the pawn shop. I'm living on a Chinese rock. I'm living on a Chinese rock. I'm living on a Chinese rock. I love it on Chinese rock. I'm living on a Chinese rock. I'm living on a Chinese rock.
All right. You looking for some rocks?
Yeah, never heard of that.
All right.
All right.
Want to cop some dope?
Yeah, all right. All right.
The
you
lyrics
guys
of
ready?
the song, like, basically tell the whole, like, daily life of someone like me or anyone that was in that scene in New York then. It's like basically, you know, you want to go get some Chinese rock, and then you say, well, everything is in the pawn shop because that was the way you got it, or you had like a go-go dancer girlfriend and that stuff, you know, and then she'd come in to give you the money, and you'd get it for her and you. Or your pals would give you money, and you'd rip them off and all. And I guess that's where John learned that stuff. Uh-oh. But, so, you know, then like the part about my girlfriend's crying in the shower stall, that was about Connie. She used to just go in the loft in the shower stall and cry, you know, and about the whole thing. And then she'd like, you know, flip a little. Eventually I got Joey's TV back somehow. And I remember she started flipping, and this is like right around the time I had just written Chinese Rocks. No, I was getting the idea from it about her breakdowns. And she just didn't know what to do to upset everyone that day. So she took Joey's TV and said, I'm going to smash this and throw it out the window and everything. And I said, oh man, do what you want, you know. And Joey just didn't say a word. He was just disgusted. He wanted to watch his TV already, and he was like fed up. And so then she realized I didn't care about the TV, so she pulled out a butcher knife out of her purse. And so I just like, somehow I got lucky that day. I just, by a miracle, I just reached over here and there's a broom. I don't know where that, and I just like smacked it out of her hand somehow, and I booked. You know, I ran down those stairs with my dear life, and I went to go cop. I thought I'd make her happy, and I got stabbed that day. I came home all bloody, and then we made up, you know, because we had a perfect excuse to do more dope. And she came home that night with $600. Uh-oh. So, you know, we went down to like where Johnny and Richard and you know, and Jerry and I would probably usually get off at Richard Hell's house and stuff, and we copped like some bundles, which I hadn't gotten since before the French Connection, when they were only $24. They were $2 each, the bags. And I think you could make, there was like somehow 3 extras, so you could make, you know, $6 out of it. If you, but everybody'd sell them for $3 to the squares, because it was hard to comp, you know. It was like risky. And, you know, this goes on and on, all these like crazy dope stores. I can go into one after the other, you know.
Okay, I'll show you what's happened to me after all these years in the music business. All right, you have to stop.
Okay, cut.
And I don't know, what else do I have here? These were my concept of the Ramones, and of course I put my skull on top. Wasn't the case, but it was my illusion. And this one I put Born to Win. And hello everybody. I'm Dee Dee King, the great blues legend, and we're here tonight in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm going to play some blues now. Yesterday was my birthday. It makes me like 52 now. It's funny, I don't know if I should like go into this now, because it's later towards when, about 3 years ago when I saw John again. You know, you learn these defenses against who's doing it or not. You know, like, you know, if you go into an apartment and you see no spoons in the kitchen, you know something's wrong, you know. And relating to that, the time I forgave Thunders, and then he came up to my apartment, and we were going to write some songs, and he said, "Do you have any silverware?" So I said, "Oh, sure," you know, and he comes out 20 minutes later. I was off dope then, and I said, "What were you doing in there? You got high, right?" And he said, "Yeah, you know." And I said, "Man, you got to go, you got to leave now, John. You know, I can't like be around this now." And you know, later on I figured out that's why he wanted the silverware, because I saw the sped spoon there. It really was the start of my downfall. I went downstairs and bought a pack of Camels. And I was like totally clean, and that just started my relapse. I ended up back on dope. I was on it for about 9, 10, 11 months, and then I had to go on the methadone, which I'd never been on. And I think the methadone led to everybody's downfall. Definitely to mine, you know. I guess it was good, it toughened me up, but I don't know how Thunders survived it all. I just don't know how that guy kept going like he did. I don't know where he got his strength, you know. And, but that's life, you know. All that stuff came along with the territory, and that's what we were glorifying, and it ended up being like an albatross around my neck. And that Chinese rock song was always a pain in the ass, because I feel like now it's like really, you know, a 99% better, but I feel like I became like some kind of heroin guru. And like some band would like say, "Oh, you want to check us out?" and all, and they start playing Chinese rocks, you know. But the thing that really freaked me out and made me leave New York, which probably saved my life last May, was after Thunders died. That thing at the Continental Divide where I walked in with Mark Brady, my friend, and we saw a band playing Chinese rocks, and they had a person who was a dead ringer for Johnny Thunders in 1972 or something like that. I don't even know the year, when he was at his height, in the Dolls, with the whole gear that he would wear, and he was singing that Chinese rock song. I almost had a nervous breakdown. Oh man, you know. So I left. And so that's, you know, that's what dope is about, like misery.
I got right, making
then I got these scorpions, and the guy who did these told me, boy, Dee, you know, that's kind of gonna hurt. They're on your ribs, and you have to sit there for 6 hours and have the needle hit your bone. And I was like really worried, you know. So out of spite, I went there and I didn't flinch. I sat there for 6 hours and I just sat there. And like, I think he always tells that story. He says, you know, Dee Dee came in here and, well, what else was I going to cry about it, you know?
It is loud.
We thought nothing of it. We thought nothing of what we took from people, the abuse we put our friends through, and it just didn't matter as long as we got dope, you know. And, you know, but the thing is, like, I don't think I'd ever write an anti-dope song. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody to do it or not to do it. It's your problem if you do it. You know, you got to go through it. I realized, you know, with addicts, I would never enable one. I'm not going to take a stance on it one way or the other. I just say if you do it, you know, it's like that old saying, you play, you're going to pay. And you want to be that type of rock star so bad to do that, I guess you got to do it. I never understood how I fought, you know, but I noticed like every one of my tattoos has the claw, you know, on it. And I guess it's like, sort of like that dragon thing, you know? Like, instead of punching somebody, you can like the claw, you know, and all that, which I don't do, but if you're a musician, I guess it saves your hands, you know? But I call this like sharpening the claws, you know? Like playing my guitar, because, let's see, this thing plays by itself, listen. Uh-oh. Drugs. See, and like why they sharpen the claws, I guess to crush somebody's head open like they do in the karate movies. They have to like strong in their fingers. I'm going to call you. See, now that's how I have fun now. I like to play this guitar. I call this one Douglas, not John, because of Johnny Ramone, because he just don't like to play. You want me to make us some bacon and eggs? All right. We don't know what exactly went wrong in our lives, but everybody has been totally misbehaved and should be put in prison, especially a few. And I like to not even mention their names. It's been so awful. I'm just going to make breakfast now and hope that Landau, the cat here, can stay level. He doesn't run off tonight in the cat club. You understand, Landau? No more. You wouldn't talk to the cats on the street like you just talked to me. And I don't appreciate it. No more fancy fees. That's it. No more marijuana. You're getting catnip. You're too crazy. Look at you, skin and bones. You stay in one night. All right. I know you won't listen. You're just going to wait till I go to sleep and sleep out. I think in 1988 or something like that, I left the Ramones. And I saw John again. And it wasn't really so bad, even though that he got off in my bathroom, the usual, you know, all the silverware was gone. You know, I kind of got an inkling that it might have started a relapse, which would have probably happened anyway. But something about that really set me off, you know. And I started, you know, really realizing I could never be around Thunders again.
Okay. So now we go into the Paris story. Okay? And get some surprises on that story. You know, this is the end, you know what I mean? So I need some headings there. You put the guitar away, okay?
Okay.
There's no continuity there.
I like to play.
Yeah.
Every time. That's all I like to do, just sit in the room and play this thing. About, you know, maybe 6 months or so after I left the Ramones, I got a call from Paris from Steve Baders. And he said, you want to come over and play in a band with some guy, Chris, from the Godfathers, and on guitar, and a guy, Vom, on drums, and Steve singing me on bass. And during the course of the conversation, he said, "John, so you want to say hello to him?" And I was very firm and very direct to the point. I said, "I cannot talk to John," and I didn't really know the situation. I didn't know that he crashed at their place, at Bader's and Carol's house. And because before a year before that, Stiv had like totally negative things to say about Thunders. So, I was shocked that Stiv had him at his house and all, but I made it clear to him, we did end the discussion on the phone, and we had a lot of others, that I would go to Paris with my ex-girlfriend Laura, and my ex-management company thought it was a good idea. And but it was all out in the open that I would not go to play with Johnny Thunders, or I would not even go in the house if he was there. So, I end up in Paris. Stiv and Carol pick me and Laura up at the airport. We drive over to the house, and he's sitting there, all depressed, total misery addict. And my heart went out to him. I mean, he was just so sad, And I was shocked, I hadn't realized how bad you could end up. I guess I had it really good, and I was really well taken care of. And these guys, like, really, were in bad shape. Like, Stiv started telling me right away, "Let's all go to sleep now, because we want to get on a day schedule so we can, like, feel not depressed and walk around the daytime." And he said we should take, like, some sleeping pills so we'll get a good sleep. Well, I gave all mine to Laura. She had learned probably from Vera what to do, and Vera gave her told her all the tricks how to handle Dee Dee, and I was cooperating, and I gave her everything, and nobody ever got up anymore. And then all the craziness started, There was like really serious evil vibes in this place. And Stiv Baders is a very psychic person, and he was like very in touch with, I guess, the spirit world. He was like, I don't know if this is true what I'm saying, but he made suggestions of satanic messages being sent there. And I asked him about the constant cold in the place, and he said that was a sign of it, that the devil was in the house. And I sure believed it, and I know he was there. If the such a thing could happen, then it definitely happened then. And it's really weird what was going on, And the heroin use wasn't bothering me. Stiv and Carol, I don't think, were doing it. And Stiv was like, I couldn't figure him out because I didn't see him doing any drugs, but all he would do was have like one drink every night, and he said they get loaded on it, and I thought it was the pills, and I don't think he was really taking those pills either. I think I found out later he had like no liver, and then he couldn't get up because if he had a drink, it'd like kill him off for 3 days. And Laura and I, Laura was really worried because, and then she was like losing it too because like everything was being stolen, and Carol was supposedly running the household, and there was like a lot of like people like coming in the house, very outlaw types, social deviants, the usual. And we were thinking that they might always took everything. And I had no money, and I had bought, spent my last dime to get there on top of everything else. I bought Laura like a expensive watch at the airport. And that was gone. She was like pissed, And we asked Carol, what happened. She said, well, the maid took it. So why don't you ask the maid where it is, and all. No help on anything. Just like, she was obviously in love with Johnny Thunders, and Stiv was taking the brunt of it. And that, just fueled everything insaner. And it kind of came, I know I'm leaving out a lot here. Maybe I better too, So Laura and I were stranded. We could not use the phone. We did not know how to get around. We tried to escape. We made it out of the house one day, and we went down to Pigalle on the subway. And the first thing we saw there was like a boss and 2 enforcers kidnap a guy right on the street. And I was thinking, what is this guy on? You know, because he kept falling down. And then I knew, because they started rapping their fist on the car windows, I knew they had knuckle dusters on, and they were going to, you know, collect. We watched as they took him around the alley and worked him over and probably killed him. And, you know, this is like, just like what was going on, you know. And the reason I'm like saying this, it's like just something like out of, you know, one of these horror movies where they see like, you know, dogs that turn satanic. Everywhere you look, you know, if there's a statue, it'll turn into a insane mummy, you know, and attack you. You know, everywhere we saw there was violence. But basically, the end of it evolved like a long drive out into the country to supposedly record, where we drove for like 20 hours there and back. John could not cop. He drove me crazy. I was really getting aggravated. He got out in some alley. Before we even left Paris, it took 3 hours to look for hash. And, you know, even I was a serious hash smoker. I said, man, I'm fed up. Let's just get out of here. And I knew it. You know, we were promised the hash when we got to the studio, and it wasn't even there. And then I just lost it. You know, I was really getting demented, and I was just storing it up. And I might have yelled a lot, though. I think I didn't, you know. I think Laura, was always, trying to, you know, calm me down. But I was losing it, I admit it. And we got back to their place, and the hallway was dark, and we crawled up the stairs, and this luxury, penthouse, apartment, all the way up there in the dark. And it didn't make it nicer when I got up there, and you know, it just seemed like the devil was right in there. Now, Thunders was playing a solo show at Gibby's in Paris the next night, and I think he was leaving the next morning. And he had packed everything before the show, and Laura and I didn't want to go, but Carol insisted to the point of where I could not find my coat. And it was a coat that had a big history, like Jerry and Nolan and I had saw it at the same time. This is like years and years ago. And we had it out almost over that coat. You know, I don't know what was with this coat, but, you know, it was always causing a fight. And so Carol was insisting that I go to Gibby's without my coat, and it was dead of winter. And she said, oh, just come downstairs, you know. Oh, yeah. She works herself up hysterically so you cannot communicate. And there was definitely a lack of communication, because I could not explain to her that at that point I was drug-free. I didn't want to go to Gibby's, where every junkie in Paris would be there, because, you know, there's a little play down on that. I wanted to see John. I wanted to go out, but I couldn't go out on top of everything without my coat. So they just left us eventually. I don't know how we got out of going. And I think she did come back and get us. But by that time, you know, I just thought, oh man, John must be stealing everything. I opened his suitcase and there was my coat. Now, I think I might have misjudged who was doing the stealing, you know, and maybe Thunders put it in there. He definitely was stealing it, but you know, I could see it being a little more Thunderish than Carolish, you know, and so I was pissed. And you know, I can't even remember one day from the other. I remember that show. I remember I played that night, and I listened to what Carol said about music. I definitely was the best received, you know, that evening. And John was really angry and wouldn't even take pictures with us backstage, because we were all taking disgusting pictures back there. And we were having a lot of fun. He didn't want to have any fun. He was all pissed off. And I don't even know why. You know, we were treating him so good. We were spending $100 a day on that guy to let him smoke hash. Just because we felt sorry for him. Because he was so sad about breaking up with his wife, and that's the thing that was flipping him out. And it had been 2 years or a year already, and he was still upset. And he seemed very vulnerable, and you wouldn't want to hurt this guy, you know. It's just like kicking a puppy to death or something, you know, if you would have. It was a bad scene. I better think about what I'm gonna say now. I wanted to kill them all. I definitely wanted to kill Laura, John, Carol, anyone, and I was worried about it, and because I was always just getting nicked in any way by the skin of my teeth, just being Dee Dee, And then they told me before the kids that this tattoo means like fuck the police in French, and they beat the hell out of me, every day, and so man, I couldn't even take a good yelling at this point. I'm so nervous, I would have just broken down into it. Ugh, I'm finished, all right? I don't have nothing left. And, I didn't know how to take it, I don't know if I'm getting too direct to the point. I don't want to. What brought this all upon this, I think it's like really things that shouldn't be talked about. I was like not instigating these things. I was trying to get through it, and there was no way. And of course, I am Dee Dee, and I'm gonna act out too, right? I'm far from perfect. And I want to say, now how can I settle this? How can I fucking settle? I just sat them all down there, and I put like 4 stilettos on the table. I had one. I said, let's go for it, No one make a move. And Laura was like just ice, man. And I sat there and I said, I realized it wasn't much of a fight. It was like weird, I couldn't get any satisfaction. There's nothing I could do. I mean, there are all these like little skinny guys. And these 2 girls or whatever, I don't know, I said, well, how am I going to take this? What am I going to do, And Laura just said, let's get out of town, I said, how the hell can we get out of here? We don't even know how to use the phone. I want you dead too. Because you drove me crazy. You wouldn't give me a break on this, man. I said, fuck the watch. Fuck all of it, I said, I've like had it, I just don't give a damn. But you got this like respect thing with your girlfriend on. I know she was right, I think she was right. It was like street justice, That's the only kind we knew. And so, we settled it a different way, which I'm not going to get into. And I don't know how I've survived it. I've had to go through the extreme. I came back from Paris with a heroin habit again. It kicked my ass at my age. I was very broken down. There's no way I could be doing dope. I don't even think I could really do it. I think I'd do it for like 3 or 4 days and break down like just so bad I couldn't even like leave the house to cop anyway. And then I just wait a couple weeks and do it again. And I got arrested twice. When I went to jail, I realized it wasn't tough enough to be there anymore. No way. I just couldn't take it. The police were following me, like just clowning with me, having a great time. New York Police Department, okay. Thanks a lot. If that's justice. Fuck you guys. But whatever. You can always make something good out of something bad, and I did. I always like use that slogan to myself, that sobriety is the best revenge. And I started my trying to get off the dope. And I went on the methadone program, and I ran, and now I got like 6 months off it. And my other friends are all dead. Okay.
Great.
No, you can't change these. They're permanent, and it's like if you want to be outlaw forever, then go get them. If you don't, I don't know. I think some of the real, like, some people I've seen, like, they don't get them over to here. Like, then they have a shirt on it. But I don't know. I think if you got it, then do it. Definitely you can't get one tattoo. You know, you're gonna have to get another one. This is like shooting dope. It's probably why I got him. You know, one extreme to the other. I don't think I'm gonna get any more though. Probably though. Okay.
Okay. Great.
That's a wrap. All right. You got this thing. Okay, good.
Can we work down?
You know, I was trying to signal, but I couldn't do it.
How's the footage?
With reload.
It's just very, you know, I was happy with something. But see, did it make sense? No, I don't know what happened. I'm like, yeah, extreme positions. I'm stuck. Yeah, just watch it. I was needing somebody to push me just to hear.
That's my technique.
I was like,
I don't bother with that stuff. I'll be myself. You know, I do what I want to do. I figure like that Alfred E. Newman stuff, what me worry at this point? Are you kidding? As long as I don't have a smack habit and don't have to drink, that's my business. Uh-oh. So, you know, I don't go by what your parents or what anybody in authority would be telling you to do. You know, me, I believe in like outlaw. You know, it's like pretty much says it all. And one thing I liked about John is I think he felt like outlaw too, because you could tell like from a lot of his later day gear he was wearing. He's wearing like hideout technique things, so because he knew he's against the law, and he would wear like those Arab type headdresses that cover his face and just peek his eyes out. You know, that's a little sneaky, because then if he ever did do something bad, he could say, well, how do you know it was me? You know, I mean, you know, you didn't see me, right? I had a long raincoat on and my face was covered. And you couldn't see my hair or nothing except my eyes. And that's a laugh to me. You know, I think that's the right way to go. More like a Maoist type society now, you know, where, you know, it's like a different kind of revolution now than I had. I don't know if you can be yourself. You need to be on a team running a gang.
Hiring 9 new assistant narcotics prosecutors.
Somebody call me on the phone and say, hey, is Dee Dee home? Do you wanna take a walk? Do you wanna go and cop? Do you wanna go suck some Chinese cock? I'm living on a Chinese rock. All my best things are in hot. I'm living on a Chinese rock. Everything is in the pawn shop. Crying in the shower star. It's hot as a bitch. Should have been rich, but I'm just fucking some Chinese bitch. I'm living on a Chinese rock. All my best things are in hot. I'm living on a Chinese rock. Everything is in the pawn shop, baby. dog, son is a bitch. I should have been rich, but I'm just digging a Chinese ditch. I'm living on a Chinese rock. All my best things are in hot. I'm living on a Chinese rock. Everything is in the pawn shop at 8. I'm living on a Chinese rock. 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 I'm living on a Chinese rock.
We'll be back, taking 5. If you want to leave, you can be stupid as you want. We'll be back.